What do you want to be when you grow up? We all got asked that question as kids, but now we're adults, and a lot of us still don't know the answer. Welcome to Still Browsing, the podcast for grown-ups who are still figuring it out. I'm your host, Ariel, a career explorer who's navigated multiple career changes and is always on the lookout for what's next. Each week, I sit down with professionals from all kinds of industries to break down what they do, how they got there, and what their jobs are really like. Whether you're job searching, pivoting careers, or just curious about what other grown-ups do for work, you're in the right place. Let's figure it out together. Welcome back to Still Browsing. Are you thinking about starting a career in finance but not sure where to begin? In this episode, I sit down with Taneisha, who built her career at T. Rowe Price and Goldman Sachs before moving into her current role with the state of Maryland. She shares her journey into retirement planning, pensions, and financial operations, proving that a career in finance isn't limited to Wall Street. In this episode, we talk about how she discovered her path to a career in finance, what it was like working at Goldman Sachs as a financial analyst. We talk about the transition from corporate finance to government roles and whether you really need a finance degree or if certifications can help. Finally, we dig into the importance of retirement planning, 401ks, and pensions for financial security. If you're exploring finance jobs, curious about Goldman Sachs career paths, or want insights into government versus private sector finance, this episode is full of tips to help you succeed. Let's get into it. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to be a teacher, and then it transitioned to I wanted to be maybe like an English professor, and that also transitioned to an author or some type of writer.
And what do you think made you gravitate in that direction?
I love reading. I still love reading to this day. I would set up a school session with my little brother. I'm the one that taught him how to read. I would create tests and homework assignments. I love school. So I was just like, yeah, I want to do that.
I also love school and I became a teacher. It wasn't the best choice, but it happened.
Yeah, I didn't even make it to that part of life. I don't even know where I lost the actually no. Maybe when I first started looking into college and things,
Mhm.
and I was trying to figure out, all right, if I wanted to be a writer, maybe like an English major, and then I started hearing about, oh, you have to be published, or you have to do these things, you have to do that, and I was just like, nah, I just wanted to write a couple stories. Like I wasn't, no, I didn't sign up for that.
Okay, so tell us what you do for work now.
Right now, I am a retirement benefits specialist for the state. I answer state employees' questions regarding their pension. What does their pension do? How does their pension work? And how do they qualify for retirement? What payment option they should choose when they retire? Stuff like that.
Let's start from the beginning. What was your journey to get to this point?
When I first went to college, I was still of the idea that I like kids. So I was just like, oh, I'll go into social work. So I entered Morgan State right out of high school with a social work major. And then reality started coming in. Oh, you won't make much money unless you go for a master's or above. And I'm just like, oh, and then I started hearing the stories about like the kids aren't the problem, it's the parents. And it's just like, oh, okay, this isn't for me. So when I entered college for the first time, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. But the conversation with family was always, you have to go to school. You have to go to school, get a degree. But no one had the conversation of what to get the degree in or the career path conversation. So mm, the first years, once you graduate high school and how people normally matriculate through college, that was all a big game to me. I was in classes, I was dropping them, collecting refund checks. I had no idea about anything. I hadn't figured it out. I ended up leaving school for some family issues going on, helping to take care of my mother. So I was a college dropout for like a hot minute. And a friend, I was working as a cashier, and he was just like, well, you like money. This bank that I vendor for is hiring tellers. So I started that, and that kind of started my career or my interest in finance. So I matriculated through banks, and once my mother passed away, I went back to school and changed my major to finance. Finished that in 3 years because I finally figured it out. Like, okay, I want to do some type of finance. So after graduation, I went to work at T. Rowe Price as a operations rep. That got me into the retirement space of finance. So I started processing transactions on 401ks and reading plan rules and things like that. And I've kind of stuck to the retirement space because, again, there were never conversations about one, what to do when you go to college, or even how to plan for retirement.
Hmm.
There were no retirement conversations. It's people work until they can't work anymore and then maybe collect Social Security. But there was no setting money aside for a 401k. There's no IRA conversations. And being in those spaces kind of gave me an education, so to speak. So actual knowledge so I could see what others are doing to try to take care of myself. So I stayed at T. Rowe Price. 2020 is when I started, and then we went completely remote because of the pandemic. And then maybe about a year and a half in, they got rid of their operations unit for their like 401k transactions, sold it off to another company. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, I had an interview for Goldman Sachs. I'm going to turn it down because I'm not really interested, but I think you would be really good for it." Somebody I took classes with at Morgan once I went back. So, like, he connected me with the recruiter. The next thing I know, I'm working at Goldman Sachs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I did that from 2021 until the end of 2023. I was traveling from Baltimore to Tyson's Corner 3 times a week, but they ended up closing down that office location and hiring for roles in like Colorado and like Salt Lake. So that is how I ended up with the state.
So when you were with Goldman Sachs, what was your role with them?
So with them, I was a senior analyst or financial analyst, but I was basically processing transactions on all of their retirement accounts. So their IRAs, their taxable accounts, monitoring transactions on 1099-Rs and trying to make sure that when everyone received their tax documents during tax season, that the codes were operating correctly, that the state codes were actually proper. So yeah, a lot of like operational things as far as processing retirement transactions and learning IRS regulations in regard to individual retirement accounts.
I really appreciate the way you've branched off because I don't think when people think about, or maybe they do, I don't know. I'm not in the finance world, but it seems like for the rest of us who aren't in the finance world, you don't think about, I guess retirement is finance or whatever, but you don't
Hmm.
think about this as a career path you can take or kind of like a niche within this. So it's nice to know that there are different options that people can take if they want a finance career. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I work in Wall Street or I'm an accountant.
I was very adamant about, yes, I wanted to major in finance, but I was very adamant about not wanting to chase Wall Street. I
Mm.
was adamant about that. The stock market, well, like we had a stock market project. I wanted to boycott. I have zero interest in chasing the stocks and the market and is it a bear market? I hate everything about that. Cannot stand it. But I'm drawn to financial literacy. I'm constantly thinking about how can I be okay when it's time for me to stop working. That's
Mhm.
what my mindset is more so of. Like the focus can always be let's make a bunch of money right now. That's cool and all, but like when I'm ready to stop working, what am I gonna have?
Right.
And what can I do to make sure that I have something when I'm ready to stop working? So that's always been in the back of my mind.
So you went to school for finance, but for your current role with the state, does a person need a college degree? And if not, what are like some other certifications or other education requirements or paths that people could take to have a similar role to yours?
So for my role right now, most jobs say they require a college degree. For what I do, I honestly don't think a college degree is needed. However, I can say either my degree or that my previous roles have helped me kind of catch on quicker. Because what some people that may listen to this conversation is they think that a 401k is the exact same as a pension, and they're not. The pension system, especially Maryland's, is very vast. I went into it knowing that I don't know everything, but I didn't realize how much I don't know. But a lot of the jargon and verbiage that's used, I'm able to receive that better. And I was able to transition through my training pretty quickly, and I'm able to understand the concepts because of my background and my degree. The training wasn't as robust as it should be, because again, it's a local government system. They're paper heavy. They're attempting to transition to, digital things, but transition, the people that are in charge of doing the digital transition aren't familiar with what they're creating the digital content for. So they think something's not important and it's crucial. So it's a lot of gaps within that. But yeah, I personally don't think a college degree is needed. However, I can't say that my degree and my experience has not helped me be successful in the time that I've been here.
So even if it wasn't required, you think it's probably something that someone should have.
If
Uh,
Yeah, if you don't have the degree in finance, then maybe there are retirement certifications out there. I actually got a certification. It's like a retirement plan specialist certification. The school is Kaplan. I'm going to mess up this name. Look up Kaplan.
okay.
Okay. That's what we'll go with. But they have several different financial certifications that you can take, especially when it comes to retirement. There's the retirement plan specialist certification, and that kind of digs more into how retirement plans are created. If you wanted to work with a small business to create a retirement plan curated for them and their employees, more so along that. If you're more interested in maybe counseling people through entering into retirement, there's a counselor certification for that available at Kaplan as well. So there are absolutely certifications that you can take and attempt to go the non-degree way. Absolutely.
What would you say some of the benefits are for working for government as opposed to working in the private sector? Or would you say that it's more beneficial to work in one or the other?
I'm still waiting on the benefits.
Okay.
Still. Because if you talk to my elders working for the state, working for the local government, oh, you're great, you're fine. There are several things I miss about corporate America. Several. The health benefits are different as far as like what's covered, what's not. My insurance in corporate America was chef's kiss. My glasses were $30 max for name brand. Now I just had to collect my prescription and go on Zulu, which is no problem because they make cute frames. But that I'm also noticing like the cost tends to be more. The state doesn't pay as much. However, I do have the ability to, as long as I keep working, I'm participating in the state's pension. Their vesting for new employees is completely different now. It used to be you would vest within like 5 years. Right now it's 10, but then you have to wait until you're age 65 to actually collect anything. So I have access to at least have a guaranteed benefit if I keep working here, which I can appreciate because we have no idea what's going to happen with Social Security.
Mhm.
I do have a 401k, but that's subject to how the market performs in my investment vehicles and that. So it's offering me a little bit more security versus corporate America because I was part of layoffs in corporate America, and corporate America does layoffs every year, especially in the
Mhm.
finance industry. Every year, you're wondering, okay, are the budget cuts going to affect me, or are we not going to get bonuses? Things like that. What I can also appreciate about the state is I don't have to code switch. I also don't need to constantly network. At Goldman, I had a lot of amazing opportunities while I was working there. I got to do things I didn't think. than somebody from Baltimore would be able to do, which I can appreciate. It also taught me how to be more vocal, like in my career, meeting different people and having like those types of career conversations. But it was exhausting because not only am I trying to do what I'm getting paid to do, but now I have to create relationships in this big, vast company,
Mm-hmm.
and chasing that. And then, there's this language that I wasn't necessarily familiar with, sponsorship, and how do you gain sponsorship, and who's going to vouch for me in these rooms that I'm not sitting in. I don't have to play that game with the state. And that
Okay.
game can be very exhausting and very tiring, and you can burn out really quickly.
Yeah. I work in corporate right now. And I think anybody who's listened to this who works in corporate knows exactly what you mean. Even like during layoff season, I've been laid off once before as well. I work in ed tech. And the first thing people will say, like, well, tap into your network. And it's like, oh, like, I don't want to
Mm.
have to know people
Exactly.
personally to get a job. It doesn't make sense to me. It's one of the reasons I don't like LinkedIn. I'm like, social job searching is just not like, I don't feel like this should play a role in whether I get a job or not. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
totally.
it's corporate America, it's always who you know, not what you know.
Yeah.
And you can ask the questions. I did a ton of networking and like being vocal and asking questions and things. And a lot of people that I noticed that were having the success, of course, don't look like us.
Hmm.
And I'm asking them, okay, well, how did you make this jump? Like, what was it? And it's just like, oh, I just had the opportunity. What does that mean?
Hmm.
Be specific. What does you had the opportunity mean? How do you create the opportunity? Like, no one was actually giving the bare bones of it. It was just, oh, I had the opportunity. Oh, I was given this chance. Okay, but why? But how?
But sometimes it really is like that though. And I've seen it in my own corporate role. Of course, it hasn't happened, it hasn't happened to me. But I do the same thing all the time. I'll ask, you started in my position. How did you end up working on that project? And they be like, they just needed somebody over there. And I'm like, they just chose you. How? Like, how? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because then I worry. My manager asks me this all the time, like, what direction do you want to go in? What do you want to pick up? And it's like, well, what's really available to me? Because it sounds like to me, everybody they just popped up there because there was a need and you tossed them over there. But there aren't any paths that I can follow,
Mm-hmm.
to get to where I want to be. And I don't necessarily like that. But yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. As far as promotions, again, I know you work for the state. So what does promotion look like in a role like yours? Is it more structured? How does it work in that world?
So for this role, promotions are kind of almost automatic. So once you hit your 1 year after training, my training was like 2 months long. I started actually doing the work and responding to client inquiries and stuff like that in July. So July of this year, I'll be eligible for an automatic promotion.
Okay.
Right now, it's retirement benefit specialist one. It goes up until like a three, which will happen automatically. And then they do have an advanced position, and that will take you from not just answering emails and messages online or phone calls and things like that. You'll actually start leaving the premises to do seminars and stuff.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they had an advanced position open up, so it was recommended that I apply for it. So we will see. I did apply. We're waiting
Oh, yay.
and we're seeing.
Yeah, good for you. So walk us through a day in the life.
In office right now, they are implementing a work from home policy starting next week. So everyone's been split up onto teams, and each team will have their 2 days. So my days will be Tuesdays and Thursdays starting next month. But it was basically in office Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. 8 to 8:30 is basically catching up on anything that you needed to wrap up from the previous day. If you have any questions for a supervisor, maybe like meet during that time. 8:30 till 4:30 is really just answering any calls, any email requests that come from retirees or active employees or their retirement coordinators, which is basically like their whatever state agency they work for, their HR person who basically enrolls them in the pension system and things like that. Every day, it's somewhat routine because I know from 8:30 until 4:30, I'm going to be answering questions about something. What's unpredictable is I have no idea the questions I
Mm,
will be asked. I also have no idea what these people are going to say to me on these phones.
mm.
I know there's a message to let them know that the calls are recorded, but the confessions and the things that you hear, I have some stories that are not safe for this conversation right now, but just trust me. They get on these phones and start just telling everything. But yeah, to my point, my day is somewhat predictable. There's stability in it. I know what I have to do every single day. I just don't know what types of conversations I'm going to be having throughout the day. Those will absolutely vary. It can be as simple as a person has a question about can they borrow from the pension, which they can't, or someone decided to resign from the job. They're trying to figure out because the way the pension is structured now, we have to participate in it, so we have to contribute to it. So they resign and leave. It's called vested, so they're not eligible for a benefit in the future. So they're just like, all right, well, give me my money back. But then I
Mhm.
have to also explain the taxes and the penalties that come with that if they do just a check to themselves or if they're going to do some type of rollover into another retirement plan. I have to kind of guide them through that process. Or I may have a conversation with someone that's a beneficiary of someone that was retired and trying to guide them through, okay, well, now that they passed away, are you eligible for anything? Or am I going to have to tell you, hey, we only need a copy of the death certificate and this is it? And then trying to get them to not be upset with me because your loved one made this decision of what they wanted. It offers me a routine in a sense, but it definitely offers me little surprises here and there because I don't know what types of conversations I'm going to be having.
And how would you describe your overall work-life balance?
It's actually better with the state versus corporate America because this job is 8 to 4:30. When I leave, I can leave work at work. I do not have to take this home with me. I do not have to say, oh, well, let me log in really quickly to finish this up. It's so much better now, especially with me not having to commute as far. When I was at Goldman, I had a really long commute 3 times a week, so I wasn't available to do anything. And then because I was in operations, sometimes I might work through my breaks because I'm just processing things. Or if I'm not working my actual what I'm paid to do, I'm networking and trying to make connections and I'm scheduling meetings. There's so many meetings.
So many meetings. Meetings
So
about meetings, talking about the work instead of
mhm,
doing the work.
yes, there are so many conversations that could be emails.
Mhm.
So my work-life balance is so much better. And I've even picked up a little part-time as a side quest just to have something to do. So yeah, I absolutely have more time with this job, especially with the structured hours and being more local.
So, are you able to give us a salary range that someone could expect if they were going into your role or a similar role?
Pennies, absolute pennies. I took a pay cut to come to the state because corporate America pays more. I make like 56,000, which is why I have the part-time.
Mhm.
So the trade-off is more stable than corporate, so much less money.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about you saying that? I took a pay cut to go to corporate. When I was teaching, yes, when I was teaching,
But how long had you been teaching? Had you been teaching for a while?
at the time I quit teaching maybe 7 years. I did have 2 degrees. So in Maryland, that's pretty good. So I want to say
Hmm.
I probably left off at like 67,000 or something like that. But when I came to corporate, and mind you, I was burnt out with teaching, so I really didn't care what I made. I just wanted a job that was not teaching and a job that was kind of like more operational, right? I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
process things. I really didn't want to think or perform. And so, yeah, I probably took like a $20,000 pay cut to come to North Carolina and take a corporate job. I mean, now since then, I've been able to work my way back up through job hopping.
Job hopping will absolutely for you every time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be real savvy about my career path and where I want to go next and sliding in and out as I feel like I need to in order to move forward. But I also
They,
work on the side, I tutor.
hmm
So, yeah, I think like everybody has like a side thing these days.
I was fighting it for so long because I was just like, I went to school, I have a degree. I don't want to have multiple streams of income. That is insane to me. What was the point in telling me if I go to school, get a degree, I'll be set?
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason?
What's the reason?
Why did you lie to me like this? Like what? Like I didn't even ask to be here, and now I have to deal with all of these things. Absolutely crazy. So I fought it for a really long time. And then the other thing I struggled with is my job requires me to think. I don't want another job that's going to require a lot of mental capacity. And someone asked me, when I told them what I'm doing, like all I'm doing is I'm working in a bar. Like it's really simple,
Ooh.
but it's entertaining because I'm still socializing. So it gets me out of the house. The people are really nice, but also I get to just watch people have a good time. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't require like a lot of me. You know what I mean? It doesn't require a lot of mental thought in it. And someone was just like, well, why didn't you find a part-time that uses your degree? And it's just like, no.
Mm-hmm.
My main day to day and everything that I encounter in real world life requires me to use my brain power all the time. I need outlets that don't require all of me like that. To me, that's how you end up exhausted. That's how you end up just like in your rut or stuck or whatever. Like you need something that gives you some type of relief, at
Yeah.
least mentally. Like there's no way I want to spend 8 hours a day thinking about what's permitted, in this job, and then I gotta go to this job for 2 to 3 hours or 4 to 5 hours, and then think of a whole nother list of rules and regulations. No.
What advice would you give to someone who is younger, maybe either just graduating high school or they're in college trying to figure it out and they're thinking about a career in finance? And then what advice would you give to an older person who's maybe in their 30s, who's had another career in something else, and maybe they are trying to break into finance?
To the younger ones, there is no rush. We all go through high school and enter college together, so we kind of all think that we're all going down the same path. And then we'll graduate and enter our lives, and we will sometimes find ourselves comparing us to our counterparts. And that can trip you up. And what I would suggest is just focus on what's going on in your lane. Don't necessarily focus on what's happening in someone else's because we don't see everything that they're encountering and that they're dealing with. And doing the constant comparison will absolutely drain you. It will have you feeling like discouraged and thinking that you missed opportunities and things like that. So you have plenty of time. You will not have it all figured out when you enter college. And you more than likely may not have it figured out by the time you graduate college. Something that seems interesting now when you're 18 years old, by the time you turn 22, you'll be like, oh, this is absolutely nuts, and want to change it again. And by the time you start working in the thing that you were interested in at 22 or 18, by the time you're 30, you're just like, I don't want to do this at all. This isn't who I am. You're
Mhm.
going to change. You're going to meet new people. They're going to teach you things that you may want to hold on to. So just don't think you have to rush. You do not have to rush. You have time. Find something that interests you, and try to pursue that and make the most of that. Maintain whatever hobbies or whatever brings you joy as well. I see a lot of people say try to get a career in what you love because you'll never work a day in your life. You're going to work. You are going to work. You're going to have to choose. Do you want your hobby to become the thing that you're working, or do you want your hobby to remain a hobby? That's the decision you're going to have to make. Do you still want your hobby to be a place of escape, or do you want to make your hobby your career and work it? See, the people in their 30s, this is to me, you're going to be okay. It's a mess right now. It is an absolute mess. But if you want to change or pivot from what you're used to, start by asking questions. I know we hate the network thing, but if you know someone that's kind of doing something that interests you, just ask them, hey, how'd you get into it? What'd you do? When I got laid off and I knew I still wanted to work in finance in some type of way, I was looking up local financial events. Was it a financial literacy thing happening or like a financial planner event happening if that was open to the public? Going to those type of things and meeting those type of people, you'll find out who's hiring. Stuff like that, especially the TED Talks and panel discussions, people love to talk about themselves and they will love to tell you how their careers got started and all of that. Even in your 30s. I know everyone on social media will present it as if they figured it out, they're successful, and they have these like glamorous things. We're only seeing a small portion of what they choose to show us. No one is actively or readily showing what they struggle with day to day to day. So, yes, it's nice to see people being successful on social media, things like that, but don't internalize it to the point where you feel like you haven't achieved anything. Be proud of where you've come from, even if you're pivoting. Be proud of what you've accomplished thus far, because what you've accomplished thus far, someone else wasn't able to. Be proud of what you've achieved and then take that mentality and pursue something different.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing about
Well,
your
thank
career
you for
journey.
having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to Still Rousing. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone. And if you have a cool job story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to be a guest. See you next time.